Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a world where Antarctica was not a barren, icy wasteland but a lush, green paradise teeming with life. This may seem like science fiction, but millions of years ago, before it froze, Antarctica was a thriving land of dense forests, flowing rivers, and diverse wildlife. When we think of Antarctica today, we picture an endless expanse of ice and snow, where temperatures can drop to as low as minus 128 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 89 degrees Celsius. It is the coldest, driest, and windiest place on Earth. But millions of years ago, Antarctica was nothing like the frozen wasteland we see now. Instead, it was a land of lush greenery, flowing rivers, and abundant wildlife. Scientists have discovered fossilized evidence that proves Antarctica once had a temperate climate. Remains of ancient plants, including beech trees and ferns, have been found buried beneath the ice. These discoveries suggest that Antarctica was once home to vast forests, similar to those found in modern-day New Zealand and Patagonia. The continent's warm climate made it an ideal habitat for many species of animals, including early mammals, large amphibians, and even dinosaurs. Back then, Antarctica was part of the supercontinent Gondwana, which allowed species to migrate between South America, Africa, Australia, and Antarctica. This connection played a crucial role in shaping the biodiversity of the time. Fossils of large amphibians, such as labyrinthodonts, have been unearthed, indicating that Antarctica had swamps and freshwater lakes. Additionally, remains of large, plant-eating dinosaurs, such as sauropods, have been found, proving that prehistoric life thrived on this continent. Another fascinating discovery is the presence of prehistoric marsupials and early mammals that once roamed Antarctica's ancient forests. These creatures survived in a climate much warmer than today, where temperatures rarely dropped below freezing. Scientists believe that Antarctica's location near the South Pole still resulted in long periods of darkness and light, similar to the polar regions today, but the warmth of the climate allowed life to flourish despite the seasonal changes. The idea that Antarctica was once warm and full of life completely changes our perception of the continent. It reminds us that Earth's climate is not fixed. It changes over millions of years, sometimes dramatically. The transformation of Antarctica from a green, thriving ecosystem to an icy wasteland is one of the most significant climate shifts in Earth's history. Understanding this ancient world can provide valuable insights into how climate change has shaped and continues to shape our planet. Antarctica has not always been an isolated, frozen land at the bottom of the world. Millions of years ago, it was part of a vast supercontinent known as Gondwana, which included present-day South America, Africa, Australia, India, and Antarctica. This massive landmass formed during the late Precambrian period, over 500 million years ago, and existed for hundreds of millions of years before it gradually broke apart. Gondwana was a lush, vibrant world with warm temperatures and diverse ecosystems. During this time, Antarctica was not covered in ice, but instead was home to dense forests, rivers, and even swamps. The connection between the continents allowed animals and plants to migrate freely across vast distances, creating an incredibly rich biodiversity. Fossil records show that species which once roamed Antarctica were similar to those found in South America, Australia, and Africa, proving that these landmasses were once connected. One of the most significant pieces of evidence for this connection is the discovery of Glossopteris fossils in Antarctica. Glossopteris was an ancient plant that thrived in the warm, humid climate of Gondwana. Fossils of this plant have also been found in Africa, India, Australia, and South America, further confirming that these continents were once part of the same landmass. Additionally, fossilized remains of large amphibians and dinosaurs have been discovered in Antarctica, showing that prehistoric life moved freely across Gondwana. As the supercontinent began to break apart around 180 million years ago, powerful geological forces started to reshape the world. Tectonic activity caused massive rifts and fractures, eventually splitting Gondwana into separate continents. Over millions of years, Antarctica drifted southward, slowly becoming more isolated. As it moved closer to the South Pole, its climate began to change, becoming colder and more extreme. The separation of Antarctica from the rest of Gondwana was a slow process, but it had profound consequences for the planet. Once the continent fully detached and settled in its current position, it became surrounded by the Southern Ocean, cutting it off from the warm ocean currents that once kept it temperate. This isolation led to the gradual formation of the Antarctic Circumpolar current, which prevented warm waters from reaching Antarctica, accelerating its transformation into the icy continent we see today. The story of Antarctica's past as part of Gondwana is a fascinating reminder that Earth's continents are constantly shifting and evolving. The land we now see as a frozen desert was once connected to vibrant, life-filled regions. Studying this ancient supercontinent helps scientists understand the movement of Earth's tectonic plates, the evolution of species, and how climate change has shaped the world over millions of years. Millions of years ago, Antarctica had a completely different climate than the harsh, frozen conditions we see today. Instead of an icy wasteland, the continent was warm, humid, and full of life. Scientific research, particularly through fossil evidence and ice core studies, has revealed that Antarctica once had a temperate climate, with temperatures similar to those found in present-day New Zealand or parts of South America. During the Cretaceous period, 145 to 66 million years ago, Antarctica was covered in vast forests of coniferous trees, ferns, and flowering plants. Fossils of ancient plants, such as Glossopteris and Nothofagus, southern beech trees, suggest that much of Antarctica was a dense, green paradise. Unlike today, where snow and ice dominate the landscape, Antarctica had flowing rivers, freshwater lakes, and wetlands, making it a thriving ecosystem for many species of animals, including dinosaurs, amphibians, and early mammals. One of the key reasons for this warmer climate was Antarctica's position on the planet. Although it was still located near the South Pole, it was part of the supercontinent Gondwana, which was connected to other landmasses such as South America, Africa, and Australia. This allowed warm ocean currents and air to reach Antarctica, keeping its climate stable and mild. Additionally, the Earth's atmosphere had higher levels of carbon dioxide, CO2, than today, which created a strong greenhouse effect that contributed to the planet's overall warmth. Another major factor that influenced Antarctica's warm climate was the absence of the Antarctic Circumpolar current. Today, this powerful ocean current flows around Antarctica, isolating it from warmer waters and keeping the continent frozen. However, millions of years ago, when Antarctica was still connected to other land masses, warm ocean currents could reach its shores, allowing the land to stay ice-free. Geological evidence suggests that even during the Eocene epoch, 56 to 34 million years ago, long after Gondwana had started breaking apart, Antarctica still had a warm climate. Fossils of palm trees and other tropical plants have been discovered in regions that are now buried under thick layers of ice. These findings indicate that some parts of Antarctica once had temperatures as high as 60 degrees Fahrenheit 15 degrees Celsius, which is shockingly different from the sub-zero conditions found there today. The discovery of prehistoric marsupials and amphibians in Antarctica further supports the idea that the continent had a warm, wet climate. Unlike modern-day Antarctica, where even the smallest plant struggles to survive, ancient Antarctica had a rich and diverse ecosystem, resembling today's forests in Patagonia or Tasmania. Some species even had to adapt to the long months of darkness and light due to Antarctica's polar location, but the warmer climate allowed them to thrive despite these conditions. However, this warm and fertile landscape did not last forever. Over millions of years, tectonic shifts and global cooling gradually transformed Antarctica's climate. As it drifted further south and became fully isolated, temperatures began to drop. Ice sheets slowly formed, forests disappeared, and the once thriving continent became the frozen desert we know today. One of the most astonishing discoveries in Antarctica is the fossilized evidence of the creatures that once roamed this now frozen continent. Beneath the thick ice sheets, scientists have uncovered fossils of dinosaurs, amphibians, and early mammals, proving that millions of years ago, Antarctica was home to a wide variety of life. These findings challenge the way we see Antarctica today and reveal a past where the land was not only warm and green but also a thriving ecosystem filled with fascinating creatures. Dinosaurs of Antarctica. Fossil evidence shows that dinosaurs lived in Antarctica during the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, about 200 to 66 million years ago. Unlike today, when Antarctica is an inhospitable wasteland, the continent was part of Gondwana, connected to South America, Australia, and Africa. This allowed dinosaur species to migrate across the continents and thrive in Antarctica's forests and river valleys. Among the most significant dinosaur fossils found in Antarctica is Cryolophosaurus, a large theropod dinosaur that lived during the early Jurassic period. Often referred to as the frozen crested lizard, Cryolophosaurus was a carnivorous predator, standing around 20 to 25 feet, 6 to 7.5 meters, long, with a distinctive crest on its head. Its discovery proved that large predators lived in Antarctica at a time when the climate was much warmer. Fossils of plant-eating dinosaurs, including ankylosaurs, armored dinosaurs, and hadrosaurs, duck-billed dinosaurs, have also been found, suggesting that Antarctica had vast forests that supported herbivorous dinosaurs. Some species, like Antarctopelta, a type of ankylosaur, were well adapted to living in colder climates with months of darkness, indicating that even as the continent moved closer to the South Pole, life still thrived. Ancient amphibians and reptiles. Long before dinosaurs, Antarctica was home to large amphibians and early reptiles that thrived in its warm, swampy environments. One of the most famous amphibians found in Antarctica is Listersaurus, a herbivorous, mammal-like reptile that lived during the Permian and Triassic periods about 250 million years ago. Fossils of Listersaurus have also been found in South Africa, India, and Antarctica, further proving that these continents were once connected as part of Gondwana. Another fascinating discovery is the presence of labyrinthodont amphibians, which were large, crocodile-like creatures that lived in freshwater lakes and rivers. These amphibians were dominant predators during the early history of life on land, and their remains indicate that Antarctica had an extensive network of rivers and wetlands millions of years ago. Prehistoric mammals of Antarctica. In addition to dinosaurs and amphibians, early mammals also lived in Antarctica. Though mammals were small and primitive during the Mesozoic era, they managed to survive alongside the dinosaurs. Fossils of marsupial-like mammals have been found, similar to those seen in modern Australia and South America, confirming that the three continents were once connected. These mammals were likely small, rodent-like creatures that lived in underground burrows and fed on insects. One of the most important fossil discoveries in Antarctica was made in 1982 when scientists uncovered the remains of a primitive, hoofed mammal from the Eocene epoch, about 40 million years ago. This species, related to early ungulates, hoofed mammals, provides evidence that Antarctica was still warm enough to support large mammals even after dinosaurs went extinct. Fossils of prehistoric birds, including early relatives of ducks and geese, have also been found in Antarctica, further proving that the continent was once home to a rich variety of life. These discoveries suggest that Antarctica's ancient ecosystems were similar to those found in present-day temperate regions, supporting a wide range of species. The presence of these fossils has completely changed our understanding of Antarctica's past. Instead of being a lifeless, frozen land for most of Earth's history, we now know that Antarctica was once a warm, thriving world, home to dinosaurs, amphibians, early mammals, and lush forests. This incredible fossil record provides valuable insights into the history of life on Earth and how climate change has shaped the planet over millions of years. Millions of years ago, Antarctica was not a barren, frozen wasteland, but a land covered in dense, green forests. The idea that Antarctica was once home to thick vegetation may seem unbelievable today, but fossil evidence proves that the continent had vast rainforests, coniferous woodlands, and even temperate swamps, resembling modern-day regions like New Zealand, Patagonia, or parts of Canada. These forests provided shelter and food for a wide variety of prehistoric animals, including dinosaurs, early mammals, and large amphibians. Evidence of ancient forests. One of the most significant pieces of evidence supporting the existence of Antarctica's ancient forests comes from fossilized tree remains, leaf impressions, and pollen grains discovered beneath the ice. Scientists drilling into Antarctica's ice sheets have found fossilized tree trunks, preserved roots, and even pieces of ancient soil, all of which suggest that the continent was once covered in thick vegetation. Some of the most notable plant fossils found in Antarctica include Glossopteris, an ancient fern-like tree that thrived in the forests of Gondwana and provided food for herbivorous dinosaurs. Nothofagus, southern beech trees, which are still found in South America, Australia, and New Zealand today, showing a direct connection to Antarctica's past forests. Conifers, ferns, and ginkgo trees, all of which indicate that Antarctica had a mix of temperate and subtropical plant life. These findings confirm that Antarctica's forests were diverse and widespread, with different types of trees and plants thriving in various regions of the continent. Some areas likely had dense, swampy jungles, while others had dry woodlands and open plains. Antarctica's warm climate and its forests. Antarctica's forests flourished during the Cretaceous and early Paleogene periods, when the continent had a temperate climate with warm summers and cool, but not freezing winters. Scientists estimate that the average annual temperature in ancient Antarctica ranged from 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 to 15 degrees Celsius, which is similar to today's Pacific Northwest or parts of Argentina. During this time, the continent experienced long periods of continuous daylight and darkness, much like the Arctic and Antarctic regions today. However, despite the months of winter darkness, the forests survived and thrived. Some plants adapted by shedding their leaves during the dark months, while others evolved to store energy and grow at a slower rate. The presence of these forests indicates that Antarctica had freshwater rivers and lakes, as many of the plant species discovered require abundant water to grow. These wetlands and river valleys likely supported a rich ecosystem of dinosaurs, amphibians, and early mammals, much like modern forests in temperate climates. The role of Antarctica's forests in Earth's history. The lush forests of ancient Antarctica played a critical role in Earth's ecosystem. They absorbed large amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, helping to regulate the planet's climate. The presence of these forests also suggests that the global climate was much warmer in the past, even in regions close to the poles. However, as Antarctica drifted southward and became more isolated, its climate began to change. Volcanic activity, shifting ocean currents, and the gradual cooling of the planet led to the decline of these forests. Over millions of years, as temperatures dropped, trees began to disappear, giving way to tundra-like vegetation and, eventually, the formation of permanent ice sheets. The discovery of Antarctica's ancient forests has helped scientists understand not only the past climate of Earth, but also the potential future of climate change. By studying the fossils of these once thriving forests, researchers can analyze how Earth's climate has shifted over millions of years and what lessons we can learn about the changes happening today. Antarctica, once a land of forests, rivers, and diverse wildlife, began its dramatic transformation into a frozen wasteland around 34 million years ago. This marked the beginning of one of the most significant climate shifts in Earth's history, the formation of the Antarctic ice sheets. Before this time, the continent was covered in temperate forests and home to many species of animals. However, due to a combination of tectonic shifts, ocean current changes, and global cooling, Antarctica slowly became the cold, barren land we see today. The gradual cooling of Antarctica. Before 34 million years ago, during the Eocene epoch, 56 to 34 million years ago, Antarctica still had a mild, temperate climate. Fossil evidence suggests that the continent had a mix of forests, wetlands, and open plains, much like present-day New Zealand or Patagonia. However, by the end of the Eocene, temperatures began to drop significantly. Scientists studying deep-sea sediments, fossilized pollen, and ice core samples have found strong evidence that Antarctica's climate cooled gradually. This cooling happened in multiple stages, with short bursts of ice formation followed by warmer periods, before a permanent ice sheet finally took hold. Some of the key factors that contributed to this freezing process include changes in Earth's atmosphere. A significant drop in carbon dioxide, CO2, levels in the atmosphere led to reduced greenhouse warming, allowing polar regions to cool more rapidly. Tectonic plate movements. As Antarctica moved further south due to continental drift, it became increasingly isolated from warmer land masses. The formation of the Antarctic Circumpolar current. As Antarctica fully separated from South America and Australia, a new ocean current developed that blocked warm waters from reaching the continent, allowing ice to build up. The role of the Antarctic Circumpolar Current. One of the most important events that triggered Antarctica's freezing was the formation of the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, ACC. This powerful ocean current formed when Antarctica and South America fully separated with the opening of the Drake Passage around 34 million years ago. Before this event, warm ocean currents from the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans could still reach Antarctica, helping to maintain its mild climate. However, once the Drake Passage opened, the Antarctic Circumpolar Current began to flow completely around the continent, cutting it off from warm ocean waters. This meant that Antarctica no longer received heat from tropical regions, allowing ice to form and spread rapidly across the land. The first formation of ice sheets. The first major ice sheets began forming during the late Eocene and early Oligocene epochs. Evidence from ancient rock formations and sediment layers suggests that by 33.6 million years ago, Antarctica had already developed extensive glaciers. At first, these glaciers were limited to the higher elevations and interior regions of the continent, but over time, the ice spread outward. As more ice accumulated, it reflected sunlight back into space, a process known as the albedo effect, which caused even further cooling. This created a self-reinforcing cycle, where cooler temperatures led to more ice growth, and more ice growth led to even cooler temperatures. Eventually, the entire continent became covered in thick ice sheets, permanently transforming Antarctica into the frozen landscape we see today. The impact on global climate and wildlife. The freezing of Antarctica did not just affect the continent itself, it had a major impact on global climate patterns. With Antarctica now covered in ice, global temperatures dropped, leading to the expansion of ice sheets in the Arctic as well. This event marked the beginning of a new phase in Earth's climate history, known as the Icehouse Earth period, where ice became a dominant feature of the planet. As temperatures continued to decline, Antarctica's forests and wildlife disappeared. The once lush landscapes that supported dinosaurs, marsupial mammals, and amphibians became uninhabitable. Many species either went extinct or migrated to warmer regions in South America and Australia. Over time, only the most extreme cold-adapted organisms, such as microscopic bacteria and simple life forms, could survive in Antarctica's icy environment. Antarctica was not always the remote, ice-covered landmass we see today. For hundreds of millions of years, it was part of a massive supercontinent called Gondwana, connected to what are now South America, Africa, India, and Australia. However, as Earth's tectonic plates slowly shifted, Antarctica drifted southward and became isolated, a process that played a crucial role in its transformation into a frozen continent. Antarctica, as part of Gondwana. During the time of Gondwana, approximately 500 to 180 million years ago, Antarctica was not an icy wasteland but a warm, forested region rich with rivers, lakes, and diverse ecosystems. It was connected to South America, Africa, Australia, and India, which allowed animals and plants to migrate freely across vast distances. Fossils of Glossopteris, an ancient fern-like tree, marsupial mammals, and early dinosaurs found in Antarctica matched those found in these other continents, proving they were once linked. At this time, ocean currents and wind patterns flowed differently, allowing warm air and water to reach Antarctica. This helped maintain a stable, mild climate, making it a habitable environment for various species. But this all began to change when Gondwana started to break apart due to tectonic activity. The gradual breaking of Gondwana. The breakup of Gondwana was a slow process that occurred over millions of years, beginning around 180 million years ago in the Jurassic period and continuing into the Cretaceous and Paleogene periods. First, Africa and India broke away from Gondwana and drifted northward toward their present positions. Australia and Antarctica remained connected for much longer, continuing to share species and similar ecosystems. South America also stayed attached to Antarctica, forming a direct land bridge that allowed species to move freely between the two continents. For millions of years, Antarctica still received some warmth from the surrounding continents. Even after it had fully detached from Africa and India, its connection to Australia and South America allowed warm ocean currents to continue flowing to its shores. However, As the tectonic plates continued to shift, Antarctica's final separation sealed its fate. The opening of the Southern Ocean and Antarctica's isolation. The true turning point for Antarctica came around 34 to 30 million years ago, when Australia and South America fully separated from it. This allowed the Southern Ocean to form, creating a barrier of cold water around Antarctica. The biggest consequence of this separation was the formation of the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, ACC. Before this, warm ocean currents from the Pacific and Atlantic had been able to reach Antarctica, helping maintain its milder climate. But once Antarctica became fully surrounded by water, the ACC began circulating around the continent, blocking warm currents from reaching it. This powerful current completely isolated Antarctica from the rest of the world's climate systems, prevented warm ocean water from reaching its shores, accelerated cooling, leading to the formation of permanent ice sheets. Once the ACC was established, Antarctica's climate changed dramatically. Without warm ocean currents to moderate its temperature, the continent rapidly cooled, and the forests that once covered its land began to die out. Over time, permanent ice sheets formed, growing larger and thicker until they covered nearly the entire continent. The impact of isolation on Antarctica's ecosystem. As Antarctica became more isolated, its once thriving plant and animal life could no longer survive. Dinosaurs, large mammals, and amphibians that once lived there disappeared, either migrating to other continents or going extinct. Forests were gradually replaced by tundra-like vegetation, and then even those disappeared as temperatures dropped further. The rivers and lakes that had once supported a rich ecosystem froze, turning into glaciers and ice caps. The once green and fertile continent had become a frozen desert, dominated by ice sheets that now reach up to 3 miles for 0.8 kilometers, thick in some places. Today, only the most extreme cold-adapted organisms, such as tiny microbes, lichens, and some hardy marine animals, can survive in Antarctica's harsh conditions. As Antarctica became increasingly isolated from the rest of the world due to tectonic shifts and ocean current changes, its climate underwent a dramatic transformation. The continent, once covered in lush forests and inhabited by diverse species, became engulfed in thick ice sheets that continued to expand over millions of years. This glaciation process did not just affect Antarctica. It had profound consequences for the entire global climate, shaping the Earth's weather patterns, ocean currents, and even the evolution of life itself. The beginning of permanent ice formation. The first signs of large-scale ice formation in Antarctica appeared around 34 million years ago, at the boundary between the Eocene and Oligocene epochs. Before this period, Antarctica still had pockets of forests and open plains, especially along its coasts. However, as global temperatures dropped and the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, ACC, fully formed, warm ocean currents could no longer reach the continent. This allowed ice to begin forming and accumulating, particularly in the high-altitude regions of the interior. At first, these ice sheets were seasonal, melting slightly in warmer months and growing back in colder months. But over time, as carbon dioxide, CO2, levels in the atmosphere continued to drop, these ice sheets became permanent, growing thicker and spreading outward toward the coastline. This process marked the beginning of Antarctica's transformation into the frozen landscape we see today. How the ice sheets expanded over millions of years. Once the first ice sheets formed, they expanded aggressively, covering more and more of Antarctica's landmass. The expansion happened in several key phases. Oligocene ice advance, 34 to 23 million years ago. The first continental-scale ice sheets developed, covering much of the interior. Ice spread outward toward the coast, but some valleys and lowland regions remained ice-free. Antarctica experienced glacial interglacial cycles, where ice sheets would grow and shrink depending on climate fluctuations. Miocene deep freeze, 23 to 5 million years ago. Ice sheets became more stable and long-lasting, no longer retreating during warmer periods. Large glaciers began carving deep valleys and fjords, shaping Antarctica's modern geography. Antarctica's forests completely disappeared, replaced by a frozen, lifeless environment. Pleistocene ice domination, 5 million years ago. present. Ice expanded to cover nearly the entire continent, forming the massive East and West Antarctic ice sheets. Icebergs began breaking off into the ocean in large quantities, cooling the surrounding waters. The ice sheets grew to be several miles thick, permanently locking away vast amounts of Earth's freshwater. How Antarctica's ice sheets transformed global climate. The rapid expansion of Antarctica's ice sheets had a major impact on Earth's climate system, triggering a global cooling event that affected every continent. Some of the most significant changes included lowering global temperatures. As Antarctica became covered in ice, it reflected more sunlight back into space, a process known as the albedo effect. This further cooled the planet, allowing ice sheets to spread not just in Antarctica, but also in Greenland and the Arctic region. Disrupting ocean circulation. The growth of Antarctic ice caused cold, dense water to sink to the ocean floor, changing global ocean circulation patterns. This led to the development of the global thermohaline circulation, also known as the ocean conveyor belt, which helps regulate Earth's climate. Triggering ice ages. The presence of permanent Antarctic ice set the stage for the Pleistocene Ice Age, 2.6 million, 12,000 years ago, during which glaciers periodically advanced and retreated across North America, Europe, and Asia. Ice ages became a regular feature of Earth's climate, shaping the evolution of animals and humans, causing mass extinctions and ecosystem changes. As Antarctica's ice sheets expanded, many species that once lived there were forced to migrate or went extinct. The cooling of Earth's oceans led to changes in marine ecosystems, affecting everything from plankton to large marine mammals. Some species, such as cold-adapted penguins and seals, evolved to survive in Antarctica's extreme conditions, while others disappeared. The continuing growth and impact of Antarctica's ice. Today, Antarctica's ice sheets remain one of the most important features of Earth's climate system. They store about 60% of the world's freshwater, and any significant melting could cause catastrophic sea level rise. However, while most of Antarctica remains frozen, scientists have discovered that parts of the West Antarctic ice sheet are thinning, raising concerns about the continent's future and its role in climate change. As Antarctica's ice sheets expanded and its isolation from warm ocean currents became complete, the continent underwent a dramatic transformation. It went from being a lush, forested land to one of the coldest, driest, and most inhospitable places on Earth. Today, Antarctica is a frozen desert where temperatures can drop to minus 128.6 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 89.2 degrees Celsius, and winds can reach speeds of 200 miles per hour, 322 kilometers per hour. The continent's extreme conditions make it one of the most challenging environments for life, shaping its unique landscape and the few species that can survive there. The formation of Antarctica's extreme climate. Antarctica's transition into an ice-covered, frozen desert was not a sudden event, but a process that occurred over millions of years. Several key factors contributed to the continent becoming the coldest place on Earth. The expansion of ice sheets. As Antarctica's ice sheets grew thicker, they reflected more sunlight back into space, cooling the continent even further. The ice sheets trapped vast amounts of fresh water, reducing the amount of heat absorbed by the land. Over time, Antarctica became completely covered in ice, eliminating any chance of forests or vegetation returning. The effects of the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, ACC. The ACC, which formed when Antarctica became fully separated from South America and Australia, completely isolated the continent from warm ocean currents. This allowed Antarctica to cool much more rapidly than the rest of the planet. As a result, Antarctica became a self-contained climate system with little influence from the outside world. Changes in Earth's atmosphere. The drop in carbon dioxide, CO2, levels during the past 34 million years contributed to the cooling of Antarctica. Lower CO2 levels meant less heat was trapped in the atmosphere, making Antarctica's temperatures continue to decline. The continent became the coldest place on Earth, with temperatures much lower than those of the Arctic. How Antarctica became the coldest place on Earth. The combination of ice sheet expansion, ocean current changes, and atmospheric shifts led to Antarctica becoming the most extreme environment on the planet. Some of the key characteristics that define its climate today include 1. Extreme cold. Antarctica holds the record for the coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth, minus 128.6 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 89.2 degrees Celsius, measured at Vostok Station in 1983. In some areas, particularly in the East Antarctic Plateau, temperatures can drop even lower, with satellite data suggesting readings as cold as minus 144 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 98 degrees Celsius. The continent experiences long polar nights, where the sun doesn't rise for months, causing temperatures to plummet. Fierce winds and blizzards. Antarctica is one of the windiest places on Earth, with katabatic winds that can reach speeds of up to 200 miles per hour, 322 kilometers per hour. These winds are caused by cold, dense air sinking from the high interior of the continent and rushing toward the coast. These powerful winds create massive blizzards, where visibility can drop to nearly zero, making survival nearly impossible for unprotected life. 3. Dryness and the polar desert. Despite being covered in ice, Antarctica is technically a desert, receiving less than 2 inches, 50 millimeters, of precipitation per year in some areas. The dry valleys of Antarctica are one of the driest places on Earth, where some regions haven't seen rainfall for millions of years. Since the air is so cold, it holds very little moisture, preventing snowfall and creating vast areas of exposed rock and ice. The impact of Antarctica's extreme climate on life. With such harsh conditions, very few organisms can survive in Antarctica. However, some adapted life forms have managed to thrive in this frozen world. Microbial life. Some extremophile bacteria and fungi live beneath the ice, in subglacial lakes, and even inside rocks. These microbes have adapted to survive without sunlight, relying on minerals and chemical reactions for energy. Hardy marine life. The Southern Ocean surrounding Antarctica is home to cold-adapted species, such as krill, icefish, and giant squids. Some fish species have developed antifreeze proteins in their blood to prevent ice from forming in their bodies. Cold-resistant birds and mammals. The emperor penguin, the largest penguin species, survives by huddling together in large groups to retain warmth. Seals, such as the Weddell seal, can hold their breath for over an hour, allowing them to dive beneath the ice in search of food. Albatrosses and other seabirds navigate the harsh Antarctic winds to hunt for fish in the Southern Ocean. Antarctica's extreme climate has shaped the evolution of life in ways seen nowhere else on Earth. The species that live here have adapted to one of the most inhospitable places on the planet, demonstrating nature's resilience in the face of unimaginable cold. Even though Antarctica has been frozen for millions of years, its massive ice sheets are not static. They are constantly changing, growing in some areas while melting in others. The continent plays a critical role in regulating Earth's climate, as its ice holds vast amounts of fresh water, influences ocean currents, and affects global temperatures. The future of Antarctica's ice is a subject of intense scientific study, as changes here could have catastrophic consequences for the rest of the world. How Antarctica's ice sheets influence global climate. Antarctica's ice is more than just a frozen landscape. It actively interacts with the atmosphere, oceans, and weather systems across the planet. Some of the key ways it shapes Earth's climate include 1. Storing vast amounts of fresh water. Antarctica contains about 60% of the world's fresh water and about 90% of all the ice on Earth. If all of Antarctica's ice melted, global sea levels would rise by over 200 feet, 60 meters, submerging coastal cities and entire countries. Even small changes in ice loss can contribute to rising sea levels, which already pose a threat to low-lying regions like Bangladesh, Florida, and the Maldives. 2. Driving ocean circulation. Antarctica helps power the global ocean conveyor belt, also known as the thermohaline circulation, which moves warm and cold water around the planet. The cold, dense water that forms around Antarctica sinks to the ocean floor, creating deep water currents that help regulate global temperatures. Changes in Antarctica's ice can disrupt these ocean currents, leading to extreme weather events, shifting rainfall patterns, and stronger storms worldwide. 3. Influencing weather patterns. Antarctica's ice helps reflect solar radiation back into space, keeping the planet cooler. If Antarctic ice continues to melt, more heat will be absorbed by the oceans, accelerating global warming. This could lead to more intense heat waves, hurricanes, and unpredictable weather patterns around the world. The melting of Antarctica's ice, a growing concern. In recent decades, scientists have observed alarming changes in Antarctica's ice sheets, with some areas melting at an unprecedented rate. The West Antarctic ice sheet is particularly vulnerable as it sits on land that is below sea level, making it more prone to melting from warm ocean currents. Some key signs of Antarctica's ice loss include 1. Melting ice shelves. Large floating ice shelves, such as Larsen Sea and Thwaites Glacier, are breaking apart, allowing glaciers to flow more quickly into the ocean. The Thwaites Glacier, often called the Doomsday Glacier, is one of the fastest melting glaciers in the world and could cause several feet of sea level rise if it collapses completely. 2. Rising ocean temperatures. The Southern Ocean surrounding Antarctica is warming, melting the ice from below and causing glaciers to retreat. Warmer ocean waters are also causing the formation of giant icebergs, some larger than entire cities, which float away and eventually melt, adding more fresh water to the ocean. 3. Increasing ice loss each year. Studies show that Antarctica is losing ice at an accelerating rate, with some estimates suggesting that 3 times more ice is being lost now than in the 1990s. This rapid loss could trigger feedback loops, where melting ice leads to further warming and even faster ice loss. The global impact of Antarctica's changing ice. As Antarctica continues to lose ice, the effects will be felt worldwide. Some of the biggest consequences include 1. Rising sea levels and coastal flooding. Coastal cities such as New York, London, and Shanghai could experience more frequent flooding as sea levels rise. Small island nations could become completely submerged, forcing millions of people to relocate. 2. Stronger and more unpredictable storms. As more fresh water enters the ocean, it can disrupt weather patterns, leading to stronger hurricanes, typhoons, and winter storms. Changing wind patterns could alter rainfall distribution, affecting agriculture and water supplies in many parts of the world. 3. The potential for a new ice age or extreme warming. If too much ice melts, the global ocean conveyor belt could slow down or even stop, leading to drastic climate shifts. Some scientists believe this could trigger another ice age, while others warn that extreme warming could make parts of the Earth uninhabitable. Antarctica's ice remains a crucial factor in Earth's climate system, and its future will determine whether humanity faces rising seas, worsening storms, or even larger climate shifts in the coming centuries.